Andrew Pasquiani, is that his Pasquini? Is that his name? Either way, I wanted to credit the hard work that he put into this well-researched, interesting column about Brock Purdy.
What did AP write?
Purdy led the league with a 113 passer rating in 2023 on 444 pass attempts. Now, before that, only 10 other quarterbacks have ever finished a season with a higher passer rating than 113 on more than 400 pass attempts. Aaron Rodgers did it twice. Peyton Manning did it twice. Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Tony Romo, who was at his zenith back in 2014. So that list contains a Hall of Famer, 4 future Hall of Famers, 2 fringe candidates, with Jackson trending now in the right direction, and Jim Nance's color commentator. Of that group, only Purdy, Brees, and Romo did not win MVPs in their year where their passer rating was 113 or better over 400 passing attempts in a season. So, Brock Purdy at the beginning of his career is keeping some really elite company. And if you just look at Purdy through the prism of last year only, there is mathematical evidence to back up he had one of the best quarterback seasons in football history. He really did. Brock Purdy was wildly efficient, surgically effective, and he had a monster year, which is why he finished top 5 in MVP conversations, and he deserved that. The column goes on, Larry. But what if we throw it all the way back to Purdy's rookie season? And he had a very good sophomore year as well there. Like, measuring the beginning of his career, how is Brock Purdy stacking up against history? Brock Purdy's played in 25 games, 21 starts. Over those 2 years, he has thrown 614 passes, 44 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. He's got a 111.4 passer rating to start his career, 111.4. So how many quarterbacks have thrown for more than 600 passes with a rating higher than 110 over their first 25 career games? So we're talking about who's gotten off to the greatest start in the history of quarterbacking is basically what we're asking here. Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, end of list. And we all agree that Patrick Mahomes has nothing short of the single greatest beginning to a career any quarterback has ever had. That's not even up for debate. I'm not saying he's going to be the greatest quarterback of all time, but the greatest start to a quarterback's career, it's Patrick Mahomes, number 1 with a bullet.
Well, statistically, but if you go by record, I think it might be Roethlisberger. Didn't Roethlisberger go like 15-1 and lead? And didn't Tom Zach start off incredibly hot with the Bears?
Yeah, but
as far as wins and losses,
but they're not anybody. You're not stacking Lombardi trophies. Well, no. Roethlisberger did, get one. Yeah. But Mike Tomczak doesn't belong in any conversation about quarterbacking excellence. I don't care what his statistics ever said about him.
No, but you're talking specifically about hot starts. He got off to a hot start. Russell Wilson got off to a hot start. Roethlisberger got off to a hot start. I mean, there's been a few guys, but not very many.
But the amount of quarterbacks who've thrown for more than 600 passes with a higher rating than 110 in their first 25 career games, it's Brock Purdy and Patrick Mahomes. That's it. So, I mean, where's the argument again about what Brock Purdy isn't at that point, right?
No, I don't think anybody's making that argument anymore. At least nobody who's sensible is making an argument that, Purdy's anything but their absolute starter going forward and a very special player. I think anybody who's still arguing that he doesn't have arm strength or he doesn't have this or doesn't have that, those people are never going to be satisfied. I mean, the guy went to the Super Bowl and almost beat Mahomes. And really, if he gets a couple breaks, Greenlaw doesn't go out, who knows? Maybe he beats Mahomes in his second year. And we're such a bottom line oriented society. It's like, if you win, you're the king. But if you lose, you're not a prince. You're like, just
court
another
gesture.
Yeah, you're just nothing. So, we're so bottom line oriented. But I mean, the guy was a whisker away from, literally having the shut up card to every single person that's ever criticized him. And as far as I'm concerned, he still has it. He still did incredible things. So he ran the table as a rookie.
Yeah. And then, there's always the element of, well, Brock is in an incredibly advantageous situation, even though.
But so's everybody. I mean, so's everybody as far as Mahomes has great weapons. Burrow's got great weapons.
Right. But they're never really scored quite against them the way that Brock Purdy gets docked points for playing on the 49ers. And this is where the column ends. It says Purdy will continue to be docked points for what's around him. But look around, Kurt Warner in his early days. Nobody seems to question how good the two-time MVP had it with Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk around him. So why do we discredit Purdy for having Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey around him? And he's put up better number than Warner's at this point in his career. Nobody ever looks at Patrick Mahomes and said, well, oh my God, he got to come into the league with Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. It's just, there's a conversation that gets tacked to Purdy that other quarterbacks seemed not to have attached to them.
Well, and it's this, what are we arguing today? It's like if you want to talk about Shanahan, there's all kinds of people like Shanahan's not this, Shanahan's not that. But if you want to talk about Purdy, then it's like, hey man, he gets to play for Shanahan. So what is it? Is Shanahan just this awesome advantage or this, or is he this huge disadvantage? People argue this both ways. It's like, we're not going to give Kyle full love despite his overwhelming success because he hasn't won the big one. And then we're not going to give Purdy full love because he plays for Kyle and Kyle's so great that he overshadows, everything that Purdy does. And it's, you know what I mean? So it's just like, if Kyle's not good enough because he hasn't won the big one and Purdy's not good enough because he's got this advantage that he plays for Kyle, aren't we arguing that Kyle's both incredibly valuable and an asset and a liability? I mean, it's just like, come on, is he an asset or is he a liability? And he's obviously an asset, but let's just be consistent. Nobody's arguing he's an asset when there's all kinds of crazy Niner people out there going, he sucks, despite the fact that, he's probably one of the top 5 coaches in the NFL. And now there's a bunch of people saying Purdy may not be it. He may not be the guy, this and that. And the main argument is, well, he plays for Shanahan. So,
right.
What is it?
Right. But your argument yesterday was that Kyle Shanahan's not good enough to win anything. So
Kyle Shanahan's not good enough, except when you're talking about Brock Purdy, and then he's a major asset.
Right. And look, I'm not trying to pick on everyone's worst nightmare. Who I will say this, everyone's worst nightmare. You're in here all the time. You do watch, and thank you very much. He says, nobody cares about how good you did in the regular season. Christian McCaffrey in the playoffs, he underperformed. And look, he fumbled in the Super Bowl. I'll give you that. If your criticism is he fumbled on the critical opening drive of the Super Bowl, who could possibly refute that? Because it happened. That's not an opinion. That happened. And that wasn't good. That's probably where the Super Bowl was lost right there. If you want to go all the way back to the beginning of the game, where did the Niners really
go? The guy did a lot of good things too. I mean, Mahomes threw an interception to Jair Brown in the Super Bowl. Is he terrible?
Well, and he says, nobody cares about how good you did in the regular season. No, this isn't the NBA. As a matter of fact, football is the last regular season that matters. We can't do this whole like, oh, football doesn't matter until the playoffs shit. No. The fact that 38 million people tune into a Thursday night game in week 7 means that you're wrong. Football's regular season is the last regular season that matters. Well, all I want is Lombardi trophy. Well, aren't you a special little flower in the garden? Everyone wants one of those.